Hi, I'm Tristan, and this is Thinking About Politics. Well, hello again, and we are back fighting the Arizona Fraudit. As many folks probably know, in the 2020 general election, the Trump administration and their supporters alleged, without any facts and without any evidence, that there was massive voter fraud. Now, they did this before the actual election, which is a pretty neat trick. And this is something that the Trump administration had done in the 2016 general election, just before they surprisingly won. And also in the Iowa Caucuses when Donald Trump lost to Ted Cruz. I'll put some links in the description to back up those claims. So in the 2020 election, where the president lost, these claims have now resulted in a weird fracturing of the Republican Party. And in states like Arizona, GOP partisans are taking the electoral system out of a neutral place, and they are making it partisan. And by that I mean, instead of allowing neutral audits to go forward and respecting those results, as has been the norm in this country for a very long time, these partisans are throwing out the results that they don't like that show there's no fraud. And they're hiring shady partisan companies who have no experience in election audits, but whose owners do have experience in spreading misinformation and disinformation. This is a real problem for American democracy because ultimately our system depends on the good faith of the people who participate in it. So what we've been doing on this channel is we've been reading the actual audit reports that the Maricopa County Elections Board certified. Last week we read the audit report pertaining to the hand recount, which showed pretty conclusively that the machines were accurately counting ballots. There is no indication from that review that the machines were miscounting. So I think it's worthwhile to read these things and really see what they found and what they didn't find. To take a real honest look and ask, hey, is there any evidence of fraud? And if there is, what is it? So, if you're new here, why don't you go ahead and like and subscribe. If you can, go ahead and share this video. I think it's important that, we signal boost the truth. There's a lot of disinformation out there right now, and the best thing we can do to try to fight it is to be honest and to share content like this to try to counteract the false narratives that are being pushed by billionaires and elites who think that this country belongs to them and not us. So what I'm going to show you on my screen right now, this is the first report here. This is by a company, Pro V&V. This is a field audit report of the Dominion Voting Systems Democracy Suite, D-Suite, 5.5B voting system, Maricopa post-election field audit. All right, so let's just take a look at this thing now. Up here is the introduction. This is a post-election audit. It was conducted over 3 days. It was conducted at this location. The documents listed below were utilized in this report. They tell you all of the documents that they used. Look at that. So there's a link to this in the description or in a pinned comment someplace. So I want you to make sure that if you don't understand something that you come back here and you check it out. And so some background. This is what they were looking for here. This is a post-election field audit to ensure the software and hardware certified for use in Maricopa County are the same as the software and hardware used in the conduction of the November 2020 general election. Maricopa also requested that Pro V&V perform a network analysis and an accuracy test. So we got a network analysis, we got an accuracy test, and we're certifying that the hardware and the software are the same. Everybody following me? Okay, let's go. So here's the scope. Here are the things that it did. It evaluated workstations. It looked for malware or other malicious software running on the servers. In addition, Pro V&V conducted a network analysis to ensure that it was a closed network incapable of reaching the internet. And it also conducted an accuracy test to see if these machines met requirements of some independent guideline. So this seems pretty above board and transparent, doesn't it? They're telling you that they're looking at a sample of 35 units. They're doing a pretty deep dive into all of these units to look for these types of issues. Now, you might be asking, why not look at all of the machines? Well, there's really no credible allegation that there's anything wrong with the machines. Think of it this way. To look at all of these machines is a pretty big deal. It takes a lot of time and a lot of effort and a lot of money. So what do? Well, you set out a sample. You try to look for any evidence of irregularity. And if you don't find it, well, yeah, you're making a probability determination. Is it possible that the units that were not tested were violated in some way by foreign actors or evil Democrats or somebody like that? Well, sure, it's possible. But it's not very feasible, and it doesn't seem very probable if there's no evidence of fraud anywhere. Here's a bad example. Pretend you're a firefighter, and you're in one of those big western districts with a lot of wildland to look after, and wildfires are a problem. Now, you're in charge of monitoring for wildfires and going out to hotspots and trying to put them down. Now, sure, there could be a fire anywhere. Should you spend all your energy going to every single place? No. You should look for smoke. And if there's no smoke, then there might not be any fire. Still, somebody might come along and tell you, hey, I heard there's a fire up the road. They don't tell you where up the road, but they tell you there's definitely a fire. And so you look. But you don't start by doing an in-depth analysis of every inch of the road. You start by looking at a high level. You look for smoke. You look for things that should attract your attention and help focus your investigation. You're going to waste your time if there's really a fire and you're like treating every single inch of ground as potentially capable of fire with no evidence. That's what's happening here. We have no smoke. There is no credible evidence of fraud that I've seen. Still, we have these anonymous reports from people telling us like, oh, no, there's definitely fraud. There were fake ballots, or the machine switched numbers, or, I just have a really bad feeling about this. But none of that is specific. None of that allows for further investigation. But still, you have this weird anonymous complaint. So what do? Well, what the state did here is they picked 35 machines at random and really did a soup to nuts review. You might not think that's enough, but I encourage you to try to see things from the other side. That there is no smoke. There is zero cause for alarm. And if you want us to be convinced that there is, the burden's on you. You got to provide a little evidence. And if you can't find any, maybe that's telling you something. But moving on. So this is verifying the software. We see that review of the software, no discrepancies were noted at this time. So now let's look at the hardware. The summary says that all units inspected were verified to contain the correct hardware components and subcomponents. No discrepancies were noted at any time during this portion of the evaluation. So the software looks fine. The hardware looks fine. I do want to highlight this. There was an unattached seal number to one of these units. The audit says that there are various reasons why this might have happened, but they're not telling us why it did happen in this case. So I'm sure that this is where people are going to put a lot of their attention. So this is for the EMS and ICC workstations and server verifications. All units were inspected to contain the correct hardware components and subcomponents. No discrepancies were noted at any time during this portion of the evaluation. So now we get to the network analysis. This is where they're trying to look for internet connectivity of these machines. Pro V&V determined that it was a closed network and it does not have access to the internet. So then they performed an accuracy test with a test deck of 1.5 million ballot positions. The accuracy test was performed over a 2-day period, and here there were 2 anomalies that are reported, both of which result to ballot jams, and both of which were noticed, corrected, accurate numbers were reported. So you can see, the state has tested the software and hardware of its systems. It's tested the accuracy of its system. It's tested whether there was internet connectivity. It's all come back in the negative. So at this point, if you're going to support this fraud audit going forward, you're in a difficult position because where's the fraud? What's the issue you're looking for? These machines weren't connected to the internet, so nobody came from outside into these machines. The 35 machines that were tested, there was no evidence of malicious software. How do you think the malicious software got in? There was no hardware that was found to be abnormal. I'm interested in understanding what the concerns are. If you were still concerned for the security of this election and you think we need to have a forensic audit, well, I got good news for you. The next audit report that we're going to read that has already been done is called a forensic audit report. Tune in again on Friday where we're going to be reading the SLI compliance report that was produced alongside the Pro V&V report. Two reports running simultaneously looking at the same things in different machines in separate units, both came away with the same conclusions. So, if that doesn't give you some measure of comfort with these elections, something's really wrong. You got to share. You must have some information nobody else has. Please share it with us. But that's it for me. These videos are a fun time to make, and I really do ask for your help in signal boosting the truth. There is absolutely no reason to be concerned with the 2020 elections any more than any other election that we have. There are lots of problems with American elections, but none of the concerns raised by Donald Trump and his supporters addresses them. And it's all just such a naked grab for power. It is so apparent. It is not even subtle in the slightest. Look, regular people from regular places have went out and done independent verifications, and they've come away with conclusions that there was no fraud. If you're going to believe a politician telling you that the election they lost was a result of fraud, without any real evidence of fraud, why? Why would you do that? Why would you believe a politician over, regular working people? I just don't understand. Why would you believe billionaires over the Maricopa County Elections Board? I don't get it. But tune in again on Friday. If the Field Audit Report didn't convince you, I'm sure the Forensic Audit Report will. And I can't wait to compare this to whatever gobbledygook the cyber ninjas are making up. I'm sure it'll compare well. But anyway, we'll see you on Friday, but until next time, keep thinking. To kiss you now, I'm busy with this mule. There's a cat by my feet. You gotta, come on. Get out of there, you go. Oh, God. I'm getting attacked by a kitty. It's another kitty. I'm recording, kitty.